For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise. And you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Thanks for tuning in at thescribbleshow.com, but mainly on your favorite podcast app. How's it going today? Boy, I was roughed up by the authorities. Yeah, me, law-abiding citizen who leads a very, very boring life, had a really strange time coming back to my own country. That story is taking up the entire episode on The Scribble, and it starts right after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on The Scribble. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm going to make a bold statement. And, I've been a newspaper columnist for 18 years, and a radio host for 15, podcast, I don't even know how long, but really, does anybody take podcasts seriously? You better if you're listening to it. But here's my claim. This is huge for me to say this. I am ashamed of my country, and I'm ashamed of being Canadian. There you go. Now, you hear people make comments like that when there's, political scandal or just, something happens that people feel ashamed. I understand what those words mean. I know what they mean, and I'm saying them, and I'm putting them out there publicly. I'm ashamed of my country, and I'm ashamed of being a Canadian. I'm going to tell you why, everybody. I've never experienced treatment like I have just within recent days, okay? I'm going to tell you the story. I had to travel for work, right? We keep hearing Prime Minister Trudeau say, now is not the time to travel. Those are the exact words. That is a direct quote. Look it up. Now is not the time to travel. Well, if you're from Manitoba, my hometown of Winnipeg, you know that now is the exact time to travel. With cases spiking and it just, the city in lockdown, go anywhere else and you'll have some freedom and enjoy your life for a little bit. And so for work, I needed to go to Nashville, Tennessee for the radio shows that I host. Singular radio show host that I host now. And we were doing travel programming. I was doing the sign-off after 15 years. I'm paid a lot of money to host my show. I needed to go for work. This was not a vacation. I had an itinerary that was planned out by the tourism board, to broadcast. It was legitimate work. Now, you can still travel for work, but it's discouraged. Though they make it very, very difficult for you. Now, like I said, and it's not even about, this is going to sound like I'm bragging, it's not about the money. I make a lot of money hosting the radio show. So for me, that's my livelihood too, is that if I need to go there to get paid and work, then I have to do that. Is it essential in the eyes of the government? No, but for me it's essential to work and earn a living and support myself, right? I've got to take care of myself. I could easily just go and sit and take the government handouts that people are doing, and that's fine, but that's not... No, I want to work for my money. I don't just want to be under their control. And, so I went to Nashville. I had to get tested. I had to pay out of pocket $177 to get tested to go into the United States. I get that, especially if I'm coming from a diseased country like Canada or an infected country like Canada. I'm going to want outsiders to, take a test and prove that they're not bringing anything to my country. I get that. Cool. Now, then I had to take a test on the way back, and I went to a clinic in Nashville. I was tested by a doctor. $250 US, so let's round that up to $300 with the exchange. $300 Canadian. They asked about insurance. Canadians don't have that. So yes, I paid $300 to get tested just to get on a plane to come to my own country. Now then, when I landed in Toronto, I was tested again at the airport. But that's not where the fun started. You see, the federal government has changed the way flights come back to Canada. Is that there's only 4 airports where you can arrive in the country, and those are set up now, almost like frickin' biohazard labs. I got to tell you. So, I had to fly from Nashville to Chicago to Toronto to Winnipeg, kind of zigzagging, almost like a lightning bolt across part of North America. And my flight from Chicago to Toronto was fine, short, largely empty. And I get to the airport terminal, and I land, and I go to customs, as you normally would, coming to Canada. And I had to show my negative test results. Fine, I had that. And then the woman asked me for my hotel reservation. I didn't understand what she meant. I thought she meant my hotel reservation in Nashville, kind of to prove where I'm coming from. So I handed her that, and she's like, no, your hotel here. And now she's talking about the hotel quarantine that the government has imposed on Canadians. This has made international headlines where basically the Canadian government is detaining its residents, legal traveling residents, who are coming into Canada, and are forcing them to go pre-book a stay at a hotel, the cost being approximately $2,000, non-refundable, until they get negative test results back, or test results, period. And so that's at the traveler's expense, and then you can fly home. You can carry on with your travels. Now, if you refuse, the fine at one point was $3,000, and it seemed like a lot of people were taking up that fine rather than being subjected to this hotel quarantine. It's not enforced in Calgary because of governmental rules or policies, and they're just not adopting the policy. So it's almost discrimination then if I fly to Toronto and and this is enforced upon me, but in Calgary I'm not. So it almost seems advantageous to just fly through Calgary, then come home and get your connecting flight to Winnipeg or wherever you're going, right? But why should you have to do that? The rule should apply to all Canadians no matter where they are. Now, the rule also does not apply to people traveling across the border by car, by land. Different story. So I go to the customs woman. She asks for the test, the reservation. I said I do not have a hotel reservation. And so she put a sticker on my passport and told me to carry on and go through. And so I realize now what the sticker meant. The sticker was then telling the next checkpoint, okay, this guy needs to make a hotel reservation. Had I known that, I would have just taken the sticker off my damn passport and continued on my way. And so I was then shown, so to the right, I could have gone for testing. To the left, I was directed into a room which is significantly darker than the rest of the airport. Even though it's a room in the airport, there's no windows, it's kind of in the middle, and it's very dimly lit. And when you go through, you look to the right, there's a police presence, they're kind of circling there, and so, okay, there's this intimidation factor right away. And there's a lineup of people, as though you're checking in for a flight. There's a lineup of people, and there's a couple phones on the counter for people to make reservations for their hotel. Now, I'm assuming that the cop presence is because people are freaking out about this policy and refusing and having tantrums and, telling off the staff and what have you. And I get that. And now I know why. So the girl had said to me, okay, well, you can go to the counter there, there's a phone right there. And I said, I'm not going to the hotel quarantine. Oh, you're not? And I said, no, I'm going to carry on to Winnipeg. I'm going to travel home. Well, there's a $5,000 fine. And I said, that's fine, I'll take the ticket, please. And so I had to wait then for the person at the counter who would then help me. Now, all along, the staff is talking to each other, kind of turning their heads, whispering about the other passengers. And then, the passengers weren't really allowed to talk to each other. I actually kind of got in trouble for talking, too loudly to somebody else before. So, I'm basically told to shut up by a provincial government official. And when I say official, I just mean employee with a clipboard who feels all high and mighty and powerful, right? And so then I said, that's fine, I'll take the ticket. I had to wait. And this is very slow going, right? They've got, again, the staff behind the counter. It's like when you're at the DMV, right? It's just this slow moving. This is exactly what it was. They're prolonging this. They're milking it. And you can hear them. And there was one guy who was kind of by the doorway having a freak out. And the girl who was just about to help me then jumped over to help her colleague. And so she went around where the police were. And I heard her say, hey, I need some muscle. Not for me, it's for so-and-so. Even when you hear that, it's kind of like, where am I? This is Canada. Am I in Canada right now? Where am I? And so then I go up to her, and she's younger than me, has the blonde hair, kind of wrapped up in a bun as though, she's a principal or something. And so she said, okay, so you're refusing the hotel quarantine. And I said, yes, I am. And she said, and may I ask why? And I said, well, it's safer for me in my house. I don't want to go to the hotel in Toronto because of the outbreaks they've had. Did you know that over 5,000 people have stayed there and the majority have been just fine and there hasn't? And I said, well, did you know that fewer than 1% of the air travelers who come through test positive, and so it's 2% at least when you're crossing from the land border. So I don't feel that the risk is high enough, and I'll continue on my way to Winnipeg. Thank you. So you know that today's fine, with taxes and whatever, is going to be over $6,000. And you'll be fined up to $6,000 for the next 3 days. So you're looking at fines of $18,000 just for refusing this hotel quarantine. And I said, I understand that, and I'll have my lawyer look into it, and we'll figure it out. So you're going to do that. You're going to have your lawyer. You're going to have to fly to Toronto because that's where the court is. So you're going to have to fly. You're going to have to pay for another hotel. You're going to have to pay the legal fees. And this is going to cost you over $40,000 just because you don't want to do the hotel quarantine. And I said, yes, I understand. I'll take my ticket, please. And so you know that the airlines are not going to let you fly. You're like, your passport is marked. And so they're not going to let you fly. You can't get on a plane until you give them your negative test results. So what are you going to do then for the next 2 days? And I said, well, I don't know. I'll just wait it out. And what are you going to do? What are you going to stay in the airport for 2 days? What, are you going to go sleep on the street for 2 days? And I said, well, no, I can go get a hotel room and. So you're going to go take a taxi, and then you're going to go to a hotel. And you know that you're now legally obligated to tell people that you traveled internationally, and you've got to make them aware that you don't have your negative test result and that you need to be quarantined, and they have the right to refuse you service. So you're going to have a hell of a time trying to get somebody to take you to a hotel and then a hotel to actually accept you for the next 2 days. I said, I understand. I'd like my ticket, please. And why do you feel it's safer in Winnipeg? I said, because I have a house there and I can quarantine there. And then what are you going to do? How are you going to survive for the next 14 days? Like, do you have fresh food there? And in that moment, it was that question where in my head, I am saying, fuck you, you ignorant bitch. Who the fuck do you think you are, you clipboard-wielding cunt? No fucking way are you going to talk to me like this in my country. You will not treat me like a criminal, like a prisoner. And I'm not even done telling the story. I just needed to sort of interject. Now, again, as I'm relaying this, keep in mind, these aren't, exact quotes that she's saying to me, but this is how it's playing out, okay? So I'm not saying word for word this is how she said it, but this is the message. This is the conversation. So then she's like, and, you're going to have to quarantine for 14 days at home. Yeah, that's fine. Basically, Winnipeg has been shut down for, quite a while. I can do it. And they're going to check on you, and you better answer the door when they come knocking, and you better answer their calls when they phone you, because they need to check up that you are following this because you're disobeying the Quarantine Act and the order. And I said, that's fine. I'd like my ticket, please. I understand. And that was all. I wasn't rattled. I wasn't arguing. I wasn't freaking out on her. I wasn't doing anything. But again, you can tell that obviously she's done this for a long time, right? And she's heard every argument. She's had everybody come at her. She had her talking points ready. She had already done the math. She's got this. It was very much like a high-pressure sales where the more you say no, the more aggressive they get, and then just try to force you. And it's totally intimidating. There was, for a brief moment, thinking, I'm not going to be allowed to go to my home tonight. There was a brief moment that I thought that, and then I even just kind of thought, well, all right, well, then I'll figure out how to I'll either cancel this booking and then just book another one, or I'll, get a train to go to a regional airport, or I'll, whatever, or I'll just take a bus all the way across the country and go home. But I refuse. I will not be detained in my country when I haven't committed a crime. I mean, you could argue and say, well, you're violating the Quarantine Act or whatever. Now, here's the deal. Weeks before I traveled, I publicly said to people, and even people who questioned me traveling, and I said, I'm going to take the fine. I will, I'm fully expecting to get a ticket on the return home. And I'm not going to pay it. And we've already heard in the news that most people aren't paying it and won't pay it and will refuse to pay it. And people are speculating how that's going to play out. Well, because that's the province of Ontario. This is not the federal government. People are thinking oh, well, it'll come on your income tax. So, no, that'd be like getting a parking ticket in Edmonton and then somehow it being tacked onto your federal income tax. That's not how it works. And so, it takes a very, very long time. And then at one point I just said to her, is it going to take much longer? This is a processor. It takes some time. And again, being the dick that I am, I'm tempted to go and say, if you'd shut your mouth and stop talking to your coworkers and whispering about the other passengers, we could get through this in a timely manner, and you wouldn't have a line backed up behind me of people getting more and more pissed off. But you have to remember that she also believes that she's got you locked here. She's thinking that you're not going anywhere because you're stuck, buddy. So after this, and now I've got to tell you, from the time I landed in Toronto to the time that I was free was almost about an hour and a half. So somebody who, like me, has taken communications and knows the rules and has seen the news coverage and knows what to expect from this, I handled it rather well. There was the guy behind me who was kind of just in the doorway getting a little bit rowdy, and the muscle came over and took him around the corner in the room. I never did see him again, but I mean, I also wasn't paying attention. From there, I went and got tested. Now, there was no fewer than 9 people from the time that I landed in Toronto to the time I got out of there. 9 people had looked at my passport. Now, I question, though, how she said that my passport would be marked. This brings up a bunch of questions here, because if she's a Government of Ontario worker, because this is a policy for that province, has the federal government given her access to my passport and my information? Because those are 2 different levels of government. My passport is federal. That would be like somebody, a police officer in Winnipeg having my passport information. They're not the same computer system. I mean, I guess the police technically would. But this is, I guess, a system like for writing up tickets and things like that. And so I question that then if the federal government has just given access to everybody's passport, because she could look up all this information, which is totally irrelevant to, what we're doing there. So I wondered that. And if it's a federal computer, like how my passport is marked. So I go then to get tested, and this is what's funny, is that you go wait up in a line that isn't physically distanced, socially distanced. There was one person whose mask was underneath their nose, so that wasn't. And then to register, they handed me a tablet, which was just taken from one person and brought to me, not sanitized, not wiped clean, but just handed to me to use as well. So here I am in line to get tested, and the irony of this situation is almost comical if it wasn't so intimidating. I mean, that's kind of where they're going with this. Now, the testing part isn't the intimidating thing, but you go, you got to wait in line again. You got to wait for this, and again, like I said, the airport basically looked like we were in a biohazard. Like everybody in suits and plastic jumpsuits and masks and visors, and I'm just like, where the fuck am I? Am I in an airport? Like it was nuts. So all told, about an hour and a half from the time I landed. And so and there's no police that are stopping you at the door. So, I mean, you're free to just kind of go, right? I mean, no, thank you. I'm going to continue on my way. And there's the hotel shuttles. So people saw me walking kind of towards that area, and I just kept going because, whatever. And then I just went back upstairs to go check in for my connecting flight. And so I get to the Air Canada desk, and I said I need to rebook my travel for today because they had changed it automatically to be 2 or 3 days later. And they said, okay, do you have your negative test result from the airport? And I said, no, I took the fine. I have the ticket. I'd like to go to Winnipeg, please. Oh, so you didn't get your test results? I said, no, I took the fine. I'm traveling domestically. I do not need test results to fly within Canada. I'd like to go to Winnipeg tonight as originally planned. Took them a while, but they ended up booking me on the flight. And I thought, that's interesting. My passport was marked, but I was able to get onto the plane. Huh. Did that bitch lie to me? No, she didn't lie to me, did she? And then again, I've got one more hurdle or roadblock to go through, which is security to get onto my domestic flight. And I thought, okay. And as I go, and remember, I'd been on 6 planes in different airports. Like, I'm sitting there thinking, wait a second. When I go through airport security, they don't look at my passport when I'm flying domestically. They just look at my boarding pass. So, okay. But let's see. Got through no problem. Wouldn't you know it, everybody? Wouldn't you know it? Isn't that crazy? I wasn't marked. I was able to fly. The airline accepted me. But I kind of exhausted all that girl's resources, right? Now, think about it this way. There's that saying, no means no, when it comes to sexual advances and things like that, right? No means no. So when I say, yes, I understand, I'd like my ticket, please, that's me shutting it down, saying, I get it. Stop the interrogation, stop the intimidation, stop bullying, stop harassing me. But the fact that you continue on and go and go and go and go and go, that's just, it's a little too much. And so when I'm sitting at I had, probably about 4 hours to kill at this point. I was sitting at the departure gate by myself. There was nobody around. I was super early. And I was staring at the ground, and I kind of just zoned out. I totally blanked out. And I felt emotionally drained. Now, again, it wasn't the fact of, oh shit, I've got a $6,000 ticket I've got to pay, because I'm not going to pay it, and I have no intention of paying it. And if I've got to mail it to Justin Trudeau like people are apparently doing, I will shred it and send it to him back. Or I will give it to my elected official in my community and say, deal with this. because this is bullshit. I had to go for work. I own a home. I can quarantine on my own. Not a problem. I'm tested before I get on a plane to go to Canada, and then literally an hour and a half later when I land in Canada. What has changed since then? Like, really? And then I'm handed a test kit for when I get home a week later. Now, what's interesting too then is once I finally landed at home in Winnipeg that night, the test results came back a little after midnight. So again, this is where you got to book that, $2,000 stay at a hotel, when meanwhile I got the results almost technically the same day. And it was negative, of course, as I suspected. So I sat at the departure gate just like staring at the ground, and then finally I needed to just be quiet. I was speechless. And again, when you talk for a living and talk people's ear off when they call you, they don't expect. And so I just started to text people, and I was like, I have never been more ashamed of my country, like for what I just went through. Now, again, it's not even the fact of the fine. It's not the policy. It's not the way. It's the treatment that I received. I want to be clear on this because I didn't get any remorse from a couple people, my friends that I had texted, or my cousin. And, the replies were, well, you kind of knew this was coming. I mean, that there's the fine, whatever. No. It's not even about that. This is about the way this played out, the treatment that I got from the government towards that's the issue. Yes, absolutely, I knew the policy before going into it. I never did plead ignorance, and I was fully aware. And believe you me, I was Googling every 2 days hotel quarantine Canada to see if it's changed, to see, no, I get it. I get it. And I just thought, wow, this is ridiculous. Now, you've got to remember that this is also, before this hotel quarantine policy came into effect, Canadians were essentially being, and you can look this up, basically being taken away in darkened vehicles, blacked out windows, not allowed to contact their loved ones, and basically just being taken to unmarked buildings for the quarantine at the beginning. I'm absolutely serious on this one. Look it up, you guys. And so they've changed it now. So and I'm not saying that I was traumatized like those people. Hey, that story, that situation, is nuts and is crazy, and I didn't experience that. What I'm saying is the treatment of how you're talking to me like I'm some sort of criminal. And again, just to say that, they're going to be watching you. You better answer the door when they're knocking. You better call them. I don't even do that for my own mother. I don't, like the expectation that you better answer. Fuck you. I will answer whatever goddamn calls I want. And then, but like I'm saying, to make it seem like they're going to be stalking my house and waiting, and like you see the cop cars with binoculars from down the street or hanging from the tree or peering in the windows. No, I'm not a criminal. No. That's not going to, you're not scaring me. I'm not. And I could easily go and say, you know what, if I don't recognize the phone number, I'm not answering it. Or my phone is off. I'm at home, my phone is off. I was sleeping. I don't come to the door if I'm not expecting somebody. That's a safety thing. If I see, two people coming up in suits to my door, yeah, no. Or just some random person I don't even know coming to my door, no. I don't answer to you. No, that's not how it's working. I understand the rules. I understand that I got to quarantine. That's that. Who's to say that I'm not sleeping, that I'm in the bathtub, I'm downstairs with music playing and I don't hear the door? You're not going to go and punish me just because I didn't answer your phone call. And really, you're calling a cell phone, so I really could be anywhere. And what are you tracking it now with the GPS on it or something? But that's basically how it was made to sound. Is that they'll know if you leave your house. They'll know if you're not there. Yeah, they will. They're watching. You're watching. Fuck you. Really, fuck you. Tell me your thoughts on this, everybody. Live at jbonair.com. I absolutely understand taking precautions. Like I said, Canada is a very, very infected country right now. But if there's any country that should be picky, it should be Biden saying, you know what, I don't think we really need the Canadians coming here right now. I think we should make it tougher for them. Instead, it was so much easier to get into the States than back to my own country. I swear to you. And after I'd spent, a week in Nashville or days in Nashville, no masks, everything open, the freedom, I kind of sit here going, why do I want to come back to Canada? And think about that, ladies and gentlemen. When have you heard a Canadian say that? I'd rather stay in the States than go back to Canada. You don't hear that often. You haven't heard that, in recent years. You certainly didn't hear it during the Trump years. It was the opposite. You heard the Americans wanting to come to Canada. Send me an email, again, live at jbonair.com. Did I honestly just take up almost the entire show talking about that? Do we have to take a break, or should I? Yeah, I need some water. We're going to take a break. Back on the Scribble right after this.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
JB here, back on the Scribble. So just to really summarize the overall tone, the message that I was getting during that whole airport debacle was that I'm already presumed guilty to have this virus that I'm knowingly bringing into Canada and spreading recklessly to the community, to other people on an airplane, what have you. And there's just this presumption of guilt is really what it is. Now, also think about this. I was talking with our producer, Bonnie Winters. You know, she joins me all the time on the show. She's out at the lake, and their cell phone is quite choppy right now. They're not getting good signal. Otherwise, she would be on the show with us because, oh my, she was, I think, more pissed off than I was about this whole thing. But even she said, think about the people who haven't, taken communications as both we did in school, and maybe English isn't their first language, or they're new to the country, or just don't even understand the policy. I mean, we're both sort of news people, so we kind of, we follow the story, we get what's happening, we keep up to date with it. But again, like somebody like my mom who hasn't flown in 50-some years, hasn't been to an airport in 50-some years, maybe watches the news, but also just doesn't quite really understand how to do things right now at the airport, right? Because it's totally different than, previously flying. And so, just think about things like that, where, you're kind of like, what is this going to do to people? I'm very tough to offend. I don't get bothered easily, but the fact that shook me. Now, again, I wasn't ever thinking, oh, God, I'm going to get arrested. Oh, God, I'm in trouble. Oh, God. No, I'm determined. I'm going to get home tonight. That's the bottom line. But think about the people who just would give in then, right? And say, I've got no choice. I've got to surrender. I have to surrender. And I think that's an appropriate word to use, right? That I've got to, that there's this presumption of guilt. I can't believe it. It was crazy. And think about what that would do to people. I mean, I don't want to throw around the term, PTSD very lightly, but I mean, this could potentially cause people to think they're being stalked and they're listened to and being watched, and, they're going to be outside my house waiting for me. And I could see people losing sleep over this. I could see people, just developing this manic sort of lifestyle now, thinking that, I'm being watched. It's gone this far. I mean, it seems extreme, but like I said, look at the way that I was just treated by my own government. And I was legally flying. So I wasn't even doing anything wrong. You could argue, yes, like I think I said, you could argue that I was technically breaking the law by not following the Quarantine Act and whatever. But, you've had the scientists say to the medical experts saying to the politicians, this quarantine hotel thing doesn't work. It's irrelevant. It doesn't make sense. And the bottom line is, we do have to go. Shit. Okay. But they're now saying that if you're going to be fully vaccinated as a Canadian, you don't have to do the hotel quarantine. Problem is, though, not everybody is eligible for that second dose of the vaccine. So wait a second, because you didn't make it eligible for me in my age group or whatever it is, I can't get it. Now I've got to be punished for that. So anyway, gotta go. Live at jbonair.com. My name is Jeremy Bradley. I'm free. I'm in Winnipeg. Live at jbonair.com. Talk to you next week. Bye, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some real heat,